The shoreline of the new land was alive with movement. Men moved in coordinated rhythm, unloading supplies from the anchored ships, barrels of fresh water, sacks of grain, crates of weapons, tools, and equipment necessary for survival in an unfamiliar world. Horses were carefully guided down makeshift ramps, their hooves striking the sand with uncertain force as they adjusted to the terrain. The air was thick with humidity, the scent of salt and vegetation blending into something foreign yet invigorating. At the center of it all stood Hernán Cortés. He observed everything. Nothing escaped his attention: the pace of the men, the condition of the supplies, the discipline of his officers. This was no longer preparation. This was execution. Once the last of the essential provisions had been brought ashore and the camp established, Cortés turned to one of his aides. "Send for Jerónimo de Aguilar," he said. "Tell him to join me for the midday meal." The aide nodded and departed at once. By the time the sun had climbed to its peak, casting sharp light across the encampment, Aguilar arrived. He approached respectfully, though there was a visible difference in him from when Cortés had first encountered him. His frame, once gaunt from years of captivity, had begun to fill out. His posture carried more strength, more presence. Cortés noticed immediately. "Sit," Cortés said, gesturing toward the space across from him. Aguilar obeyed. For a moment they ate in silence, simple provisions, practical and sufficient. Then Cortés spoke. "Tell me," he said, studying him, "are the men treating you well?" Aguilar nodded. "They are, Captain," he replied. "I have been shown nothing but kindness." Cortés allowed a faint smile. "I can see that," he said. "You've put on weight." Aguilar lowered his gaze slightly, almost embarrassed. "It appears you are well on your way to a full recovery," Cortés continued. "I am grateful," Aguilar said sincerely, "for your hospitality and for my deliverance." He paused, then added with quiet conviction, "I thank Jesus Christ, the true Son of God, for sending you, for saving my life." Cortés watched him carefully. Faith, he knew, was a powerful force, one that could bind men together just as effectively as loyalty or ambition. He nodded once. "And perhaps," Cortés said, "he has more work for us yet." Aguilar looked up, attentive. Cortés leaned back slightly, shifting the direction of the conversation. "I am told," he began, "that you speak the language of the people in this region." Aguilar understood immediately. "The Chontal language," he said. "Yes, I speak it." Cortés's interest sharpened. "You learned it during your captivity?" "I did," Aguilar replied. 8 years among them leaves little room for ignorance. I learned their language, their customs, their ways." He paused briefly. "I know them well." Cortés nodded slowly. "Good," he said. There was a moment of silence before he continued. "Tomorrow," Cortés said, "we move inland." Aguilar's expression changed slightly, subtle but noticeable. "To the city of Tabasco," Cortés added. Aguilar did not respond immediately. "We will approach them," Cortés continued, "and offer our hand in friendship." That was when Aguilar spoke. "With respect," he said carefully, "that would be unwise." Cortés raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Aguilar leaned forward slightly. "I have lived among these people," he said. "I have seen how they treat outsiders, especially those they perceive as threats." His voice remained calm but firm. "They are not welcoming," he continued, "not to men like us, not to men of Christ." Cortés said nothing. "They are capable of great cruelty," Aguilar added, "merciless at times." A pause. "They will not see you as a friend," he concluded. "They will see you as an enemy." The words hung between them. Cortés considered them carefully. "I hear your warning," he said at last. Aguilar watched him, waiting. "But I will not act on fear alone," Cortés continued, "not without first testing the possibility of diplomacy." Aguilar held his gaze. "You believe they will reject us?" Cortés said. "I do," Aguilar replied. "Then we will know soon enough," Cortés said. His tone was final. "I will extend my hand," he added, "even if I expect it to be refused." Aguilar exhaled quietly. "As you command," he said. The following day proved him right. As the Spanish force approached the city of Potonchan, their presence did not go unnoticed. Warriors gathered, lines formed, and when Cortés extended his offer, through Aguilar's voice translated into the Chontal tongue, it was met not with acceptance, but defiance. The response was immediate, hostile, and within moments the situation shifted. Arrows filled the air, a volley so dense it darkened the space between the two forces. They struck the Spanish ranks with relentless force, but most failed to penetrate the steel armor worn by Cortés's men. The unfamiliar material absorbed the impact, deflecting what would have otherwise been lethal strikes. Still, the pressure was immense. The Spanish were outnumbered, severely. Warriors closed in from multiple directions, their movements fast, coordinated, aggressive. But Cortés did not hesitate. "Return fire," he ordered. The response was devastating. Gunpowder weapons roared to life, arquebuses cracking through the air with thunderous force. Smoke billowed as cannon fire followed, tearing through formations and sending shockwaves across the battlefield. And then, the horses. Massive, powerful, unlike anything the defenders had ever seen. They charged forward, with Spanish riders mounted atop them, blades drawn, momentum unstoppable. The effect was immediate. Confusion, fear, disorder. What had begun as a confident defense began to fracture. The Mayan warriors, unprepared for such weapons and creatures, began to fall back, then retreat, and finally, break. The battlefield shifted in a matter of hours. By the end of the day, the fighting had ceased, and by the next, peace was requested. Following the battle, Cortés and his men returned to their position within the city. The wounded were tended to. The dead, on both sides, were buried. The cost of the encounter was acknowledged, even in victory. Then, as tradition dictated, representatives from Tabasco arrived. They came bearing gifts, offerings meant to acknowledge defeat and secure peace. Gold, jewelry, jade, turquoise, animal skins, exotic feathers, domestic animals, a display of wealth that did not go unnoticed. But among the gifts was something else. 20 young women, presented as part of the offering. Among them was one who had come to be known as La Malinche. At the time, she was simply one among many, but her presence would soon prove significant. Word of these events traveled quickly. The following month, in April of 1519, a small contingent approached the Spanish camp. Among them were representatives of the Aztec Empire. 2 governors, Tendile and Pitalpitoque, escorted by a group of elite warriors. At their side, Tizoc and Yaotl. They had been sent with a clear purpose: to observe, to question, to understand. The meeting between the two groups was tense, though outwardly respectful. Through translators, Aguilar, and soon supplemented by Malinche, communication was established. Cortés listened as the envoy spoke, then responded, carefully. When asked of his intentions, he remained vague, purposefully so. He spoke of exploration, of diplomacy, of his desire to meet the great emperor he had heard so much about, Montezuma. His tone was respectful, but insistent. The envoys listened, then responded in kind. They presented gifts, gold, finely crafted items, tokens of the empire's wealth and sophistication. But when it came to the request for a meeting, they declined. Politely, firmly. Montezuma would not receive him. Not now. Not under these circumstances. The message was clear. The distance between the two worlds remained. After the envoys departed, Cortez's advisors gathered. Their attention, however, was not on the refusal. It was on the gifts, the gold, the craftsmanship, the sheer value of what had been presented in a single meeting. "If this is what they offer as a gesture," one of the men said, "what must exist in their capital?" Another nodded. "A city like that," he added, "must hold wealth beyond anything we've seen." The idea spread quickly. Not just possibility, but certainty. And with it came something powerful. Desire. Over the next 3 months, Cortez moved carefully, deliberately. He did not rush inland. Not yet. Instead, he focused on diplomacy, building alliances. He reached out to local tribes, many of whom had long-standing grievances against Aztec rule. Oppression, tribute demands, and conflict had created fractures within the region. Cortez exploited them, skillfully. He offered partnership, protection, opportunity. And, one by one, some began to listen. Meanwhile, he established a permanent base along the coast, at Veracruz. From there, he made a bold declaration. All of the lands they now stood upon belonged to the Spanish crown. It was a statement of intent, clear, unyielding. But what came next would define everything. In July, Cortez gathered his men. They stood along the shoreline, facing the fleet that had brought them here. The ships, their only link back, their only means of retreat. Cortez addressed them. "We are here for a purpose," he said, "not just for ourselves, but for God and for Spain." His voice carried across the assembled ranks. "We will bring glory to our empire," he continued, "and wealth beyond imagination." He let the words settle. "Gold," he said, "more than any of you have ever seen." Their attention sharpened, their ambition ignited. Then, without warning, he gave the order. The ships were to be destroyed. One by one, they were dismantled, rendered unusable. The men watched in stunned silence as their escape vanished before their eyes. There would be no return, no retreat, only forward. When it was done, Cortez turned back to them. "There is no going back now," he said. The reality settled in. Final, absolute. "Our path is clear," he continued. He looked inland, toward the unknown, toward the empire that awaited. "We march," he said, "to Tenochtitlan." And with that, the course of history was set.